Uh, so, anyway, let me calm down. Because apparently, I actually have a couple of white people that actually like hearing the videos that I make. And I think I've already vented my frustrations with white supremacy and white racism and all that other stuff and how it affects black people. I've expressed all that. So all my anger is out. Okay. So let me specifically get into talking about my feelings right now, as of today, about New Jersey gun laws. Okay. I've already covered the racial component in several videos, and I might bring up some pertinent points in this video, but I'm going to try not to go into one of my, and y'all motherfuckers, I'm going to try not to do that. Where do I want to start? I wanted to start at, I was looking at a map, usacarry.com. I go to USA Carry to know where I can carry. I've expressed before. No, actually, I don't think I've expressed it before, but maybe I did. But I have a Utah non-resident permit. Okay. The district attorney of Pennsylvania basically made it so that Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, no longer recognizes Utah permits, neither Utah resident permits or Utah non-resident permits. So, as a resident citizen of the state of New Jersey, I can no longer carry in Pennsylvania. Okay? I spend maybe, now it's less, but before I was spending at least 75% of my time in the city of Philadelphia. Where I was, I couldn't carry, in the, buildings I was going into and operating and stuff like that, for the purposes that I was there. But, just in, moving around and navigating around the city and whatnot, I was carrying. And I loved it. I loved the freedom of carrying. I loved the fact that, I could actually defend myself if something arose, right? I didn't feel that I was going to end up being a victim like, Amber Long, her and her mom were walking down the street and she had a purse and two guys came up and they wanted her purse. She wouldn't give it up and they shot her in the chest and she died. Okay, she was an architect. I think she went to Temple. Okay. This type of shit goes on in Philadelphia all the time. As I've stated before about the economic disparities between groups, there's a lot of gentrification going on in Philadelphia. And gentrification is not only a racial thing, but it's also a class thing. Because when you look at any white area, predominantly black area that's being gentrified, they move the bohemian white people in first. Your artisans, those white guys that walk around with the beards, but then they got like the gay, slicked over haircut, and they got a plaid shirt, and they got cut off jeans, and they wear penny loafers, and they ride around on bicycles. Okay? I don't even know what you want to call it. It's definitely not metrosexual. It's like metro, homo, lumberjack, a hippie look. I don't even know what you want to call it, but that's what it is. Right? And then basically the wealthier white people, after, all of the, minority people have been moved out because they can't afford to live there, because either they can't pay the property taxes, they were bought out, or the rent is too damn high. Then once it's nothing but a bunch of hippie white teens, that typically, grew up in the suburbs but didn't want to go to college like mommy and daddy wanted them to. So now they're just, being hipsters in the city. Eventually they get moved out, and then you have these professional class white people that later move in. Right, you know, the white woman that stays home and she's got a nanny and the nanny's rolling around with the stroller, and the white guy's going off working in some corporate executive office making $275K a year. Okay, that's typically what happens, right? That's how the whole setup is, right? But during that transition, right, you got this gentrified area that's backed up directly against what used to be the hood. Right? So eventually some of the, you know, the poverty and the drugs and the social problems and everything else end up spilling out into this front line of the gentrified, you know, white community, or the new white community against the old black community that's now being gentrified. It's not always necessarily black. It can be Hispanic, you know, but usually it's black or Hispanic. Right, because these are the most impoverished communities in the United States, right? So what was I going to say? Where was I going with this? So, you know, I felt safe when I had my firearm on me walking around, you know, Philadelphia. Not that I thought that it was some sacred talisman or something like that, but, you know, walking, you know, at nighttime or wherever I was going, you know, I didn't feel like, you know, I'm sitting there hoping like, man, I hope nothing happens. But if something were to happen, I'm like, at least I got something. I'm not going to try to claw somebody to death. I'm not going to try to scream, you know what I mean? Or the most I can do is run away or something. I mean, like, what can you do? And I don't understand people who really, they feel safe like that. They really have it in their mind that, oh, well, you know, the laws are on the books and they're having a gun is illegal. And just because the law says so, the people who I don't want to have the guns won't have the guns. Like, there's people, they really freaking believe that shit. They sit around and they believe that just because it says so that no criminal will try to rob them. You know, up by University of Pennsylvania, you know how many people get robbed constantly around the University of Pennsylvania? Up there by, what is that? You know, anywhere from 33rd to like 43rd Street or something like that. Right? Students are constantly getting robbed over there. Why? Because the school backs up against, what is that? West Philly. Backs right up against it. Right? The hood's right there. Right there. You know, you're like lolly la, you know, coming out your Ivy League school, you know, and you go a couple blocks in the wrong direction and you in for a whole world of hurt. You know, people getting shot in the leg, you know, shot in the arm, you know, no real deaths or anything like that, but people have been shot, you know, because you got starving people out there that don't have jobs, economic opportunities. They went to a shitty school, you know, all that crap. And it would, you know, unfortunately, it's going to be disproportionately black people, right? So anyway, I was looking at the USA Carry, and I clicked on Louisiana, right? Because I was trying to figure out how to get around this. Is there any other state that Pennsylvania recognizes that gives out non-resident permits, right? I'm personally, I just need to move the fuck out of the state of New Jersey, period, and then just be done with it, right? So I was like, damn, well, how the hell am I going to carry in Pennsylvania? Like, I got so comfortable and used to carrying in Pennsylvania. Now I'm like, damn, like, now I can't carry. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And the DA thinks that she's actually solving something, because, you know, of the 0.1% of people that would get denied a Pennsylvania permit and then go off and then get a non-resident Utah permit or a non-resident Florida permit. And then when they would get arrested for the firearm that, either their license was revoked, let's just say their license was revoked, right? And when they got arrested the second time, there really wasn't anything the state could do. So now the state has changed the laws and everything, and basically no permit is valid other than the one that you can be given in the city of Philadelphia. I think that's like how the law is. But I'm saying, I don't know why they had to go in there and make it so that all the other people can't carry. So all the other law-abiding people that had non-resident permits can no longer carry because of this supposed loophole, that was going on. Now, I don't know how much of a loophole was really going on. I just think they blew it up to try to, the anti-gunners, to try to make it so harder for more people to carry, right? Because, again, if you're in the state of Pennsylvania, state of New Jersey doesn't issue permits, even though we have a so-called permit process, but it's only for law enforcement, right? If you get denied a permit to carry in New Jersey, that follows you for every time you go and you file for a firearms permit. It follows you. So be it that it's following you, it could mess you up in the next time you apply for the permit. Now, I don't know anybody who's gotten denied and then gone for a second permit, but I know that that's been an issue that people have kind of voiced, right? That's an issue, right? But I can't go over to Pennsylvania, otherwise I would, and walk into, the police station right there on Spring Garden, go in there, get, the permit application. But then on the permit application, it says, we're not going to give you a permit if you don't get a CCW license from your own state. So if you're from New Jersey and you can't go through a non-resident permit from either Utah or Florida, which are both now knocked out, you can't carry in Pennsylvania, period. There's no way for you to carry in Pennsylvania, or at least not in the city of Philadelphia, because the first thing they're going to ask is, well, do you have a permit from your own state? Yeah, but Jersey doesn't give them out. If Jersey actually had a permit process, a carry permit process, myself and a bunch of other people would have a permit if they actually had a legitimate permit process like a lot of other states. But Jersey doesn't, like New York. They make it so the stupid thing is like, here you have Chicago being forced to create a permit system, but yet Jersey's allowed to get away with the illusion of a permit system that it doesn't have. Because, it's a de facto ban on guns, but yet here you have, the recent case with the guy going up against the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court won't even look at it. They won't even look at it. So Jersey's getting away with murder because here you got San Diego, right? The 9th Circuit Ward smacked that down. The 3rd Circuit Ward is a bunch of idiots. And then you got the Supreme Court that basically said, Chicago, you can't ban it. But then New Jersey basically has a ban that they're getting away with. Because they, is that how the Second Amendment was supposed to be devised? I understand that states have their own sovereignty, but I'm saying, is that how it was supposed? It's so slick. It's incredibly slick what the politicians and officials in New Jersey have essentially done. Because they go, oh, we have a permit system. You know what I mean? Like that's like saying, I don't even know, what could I compare it to? That's like saying, like a diner has, instead of having a sign that says, we don't serve to coloreds, or we don't serve, black people or whatever, it finds some loophole that basically says, we're not racist because we have a black cashier, but yet they still get away with not serving black people. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not even into legislating laws to force certain groups of people to allow me or anybody else to eat in their restaurant. If they don't want me there, I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to force my way in there. You can't legislate how people feel. You can't legislate the hearts and minds of people. You can create all the laws you want, but you can't legislate that. Me, I want my own restaurant to go to. I'm not trying to go over there and beg white people to let me into their establishments, right? That's number one. Right, so I get irritated with black people that are like, oh, well, if we didn't allow ourselves to become so dependent and believe in the illusion of inclusion and buy into the whole, we're all American, kumbaya, we're all one. If we didn't feed into all that Martin Luther King shit, we would be better off because we would have went down the Malcolm X route, and we would have separate but equal and had our own shit, and we didn't have to worry about what white people are denying us. Okay? But, black people done messed up with that shit, right? So the evil white people that want to be on some evil racist shit, the muhaha white people, black people are just we have no choice but to sit there and try to argue and demand that they allow us into their establishments. But that's, see how I'm deviating? Let me get back to guns. Okay. So, there's no way for me to carry in Pennsylvania now, right? And I'm saying, when I was looking at that map of Louisiana, like when I clicked on Louisiana, right? Because like when you click on different states, whether you hit resident or non-resident, the whole map changes and the colors change and everything else like that, right? So when I clicked on Louisiana, and I think Louisiana, they have like the states that if you actually had a permit from a state where they actually have live fire training, you know what I mean? Like that's like the highest standard for carry permits. So the states that have live fire training, typically all the other states accept, and Louisiana is one of those states. So like the only states that don't accept Louisiana are pretty much the states that are in like the top 3 for the most ridiculous gun laws ever, right? Or top 5. So like you look at the map, and then it's like California's red, and then blue, 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 all the way across the country until you get to Illinois. Then it's red, and then it goes blue, 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 all the way across the country until you get to the northeast, and then it's red again. You know what I'm saying? And this is for resident permits of Louisiana. And I'm looking at the map, and I'm like, ain't this a bitch? Now this is where race comes in. Every one of those places on the map essentially are urban environments with high densities of black people. California, Chicago, Illinois, and then you got the whole Northeast. That's where the urban black populations went to. Okay, now there is no thing there's no general statement that I can make across the board, right? Because there's the black people in the South, right? But if you ask me, and there's those more rural, slower type of areas, there's a culture of hunting, there's a culture of guns, there's very strong Republican those are strong Republican areas. Black people really don't run anything down there. The Democratic Party doesn't have a clutch around those black people, right? Or I mean, they do, but I'm saying it's still, the states are like, majority white or disproportionately white, or white people control substantial amounts of the sector or whatever. So they're like, you're not getting rid of our guns. We ain't scared of black people. Those are the white people, the white people with the camouflage hats. We ain't scared of coloreds, right? So they're going to have their guns because they ain't worried about, gangs and shit like that, because you just don't have that culture in the Deep South, despite the fact that there may be a lot of black people in those areas. Okay, those are the white people that feel like we had to have guns to keep y'all niggas in check, right? But when you get to the urban environments where the liberals are at, right? Like, I mean, you can go on the internet and you can look up the race riots in New Jersey in '67, and black people were shooting back at the cops, and the cops were shooting back at black people, right? I didn't know all this stuff. I had to go on the internet and look at it. I'm an 80s baby. I didn't know all this stuff was going on, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, okay. And then again, you got the Firearms 1968 Act. And what happened in 1968? What happened in 1968? 1968, you got this Firearms Act that came to be after John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all these people dying, Robert Kennedy, all that stuff, right? Right? And when you look at the time, the era, the racial tensions and all of this stuff, right? Those laws were put in place to keep guns out of black people. And I've stated that before. And then you get all these trumped up charges and lock up the Black Panthers and throw them in jail because now they got felonies, and so they get out. Now they lost their gun rights because black people walking around with guns scared the bejesus out of white people. Because it started with, you can open carry, and the open carry was cool. And then the states was like, oh, shit, niggas with guns? Oh, that's scary. So then they made it, you can open carry with your gun unloaded, like how California did, right? And then they completely got rid of that. And that started with black people walking around with guns. You know, the whole Watts riot and all that other shit. Black people walking around with guns. Right? They instituted martial law and everything else to keep, because they didn't want black people being able to shoot back at the state, which is the irony of it. And this is white supremacy all day. The irony of it, when you go and you talk to white people or white gun owners about why it's important for them to have the Second Amendment, one of the biggest arguments that they'll make is, you know, preventing the state from overthrowing the people and creating this totalitarian government, yada, yada, yada. Amazing at how that never applied to black people, especially in the 60s. Black people weren't allowed to protect themselves. All of a sudden, bam, martial law. And see, this is why I have mixed feelings about, you know, the NRA and the Second Amendment and how white people feel about it, because they only care when it affects them. When it was affecting black people, it's like we're the canaries in the coal mine when you want to talk about oppression, civil unrest, and all that stuff, right? And it's like, you know, when white people make up all these like stories about the hypothetical about what the state could do to them, you know, as Americans and yada, 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 I'm like, well, that already happened to black people. But yet they never make the connection to, well, that happened to black people, so we, you know, and we're the ones who perpetrated it, so we should really be more mindful of it. They don't think and they don't operate like that. Because again, white supremacy is about white people being on top and they're the sun and everybody else is just the planets that are around them and everything. But I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of it all. Right? The hypocrisy of it all. Right? So and then like after the whole Black Panthers and they all died out and got locked up and everything else like that, then came what? The crack era. And the kingpins and all that stuff. And the gang culture and whatnot. Right? And that took off. And so then the whole keeping guns out of the hands of black people took on a whole new meaning. Because at first it was the idea of getting guns out of the hands of black people is that black people would use those guns against white people. Right? Even if white people were in the wrong and they were being oppressive and racist and everything else, they didn't want to be shot back at. Okay? But then in the 80s, it turned into blacks shooting other blacks. Right? And it's like, maybe I should put the clip in this video, but there's a documentary on YouTube called Bastards of the Party. Okay? Which is a documentary about the Bloods and the Crips. And in the clip, they have a point in there where one of the guys says, yeah, none of the white people cared when we were blasting on each other in Compton or blasting on each other in some black community down in LA. But when the drug dealers wanted to leave and go out and have a good time and everything, and then they would bump into each other on Venice Beach where the white people were hanging out, and then they were blasting on each other and white people were getting caught in the crossfire, that's when they started caring about the gangs and the gang violence and everything. Because when it was just black people killing black people over drugs because of the lack of economic opportunities that exist in their environment, the white people could care less. They was like, we don't care. We don't care. It's niggas killing niggas. We don't care. But as soon as it spilled into white areas or spilled on the white people, that's when they're like, oh, you know, we got to get rid of these guns and gangs and da-da-da-da. And the stupid thing is, because, you know, the civil rights era was over, a lot of black people only saw the drug dealers and whatnot that were terrorizing their communities. You know what I mean? And I put a lot of those people at fault. A lot of those black elders at fault, because if they wasn't, basically hanging off of the nutsack of this white system so goddamn much and had their own businesses and established that and passed that on to their children and like a black Chinatown or something like that, so their black children weren't so dependent on white people to the point where when white people, say fuck you, you're not going boo-hoo. You're going, well, fuck you too. I got my own. You see what I'm saying? So you have this whole generation that grew up, after the civil rights era and the whole deindustrialization, the closing down of factories. There was nothing for these young black men in the late 80s and the early 90s. The factories was disappearing, drying up, going overseas. California had a huge rubber industry. Detroit had the auto industry. Pittsburgh had the steel industry. What do you think black people moved out of the South for? They moved out of the South for jobs. You know what I mean? So when people jump on, oh, black people are lazy and da-da-da-da-da, they moved out of the South for jobs. Hello. right? And then not only that, but anytime a new Marriott opens, motherfuckers got lines around the block. But I don't even let me get into how the white boys like to keep black people out of those apprenticeships and those union labor unions and shit like that. Oh, y'all some dirty motherfuckers when it comes to that. But I know y'all don't want to talk about that. We here to talk about guns, right? So you got this whole, you got this whole belief system. When it comes to why guns, should be banned. And it's transitioned over time. First, it was to prevent black people from shooting back at white people. And then it was to get rid of all the gangs and the gun crime and where they're getting the guns from and yada, 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 right? So then we went to, 10 round magazine limits. And then we went to, throw them in jail and throw away the key. We went to this 3 strikes and you're out bullshit, right? All this other stuff, right? So all this stuff is really to keep the black, it's like you keep black people down, and then you have to do more steps because the black people who are now down are responding to their situation of poverty to where they get involved in drugs, and that creates a whole bunch of social problems. And then it's like you got to create more laws because now they're so fucked up you really can't control them, right? Other than locking them up or killing them, right? So that's like where the black people and white people interaction in the gang culture and everything. But see, white people as a collective, they don't want to say this shit. They don't want to admit this shit, but this is what goes on. Okay? It's like a zookeeper that, it's like zookeeper's got this lion and you keep the lion in a cage and then eventually the lion's gonna catch you slipping, and the lion's gonna fucking maul your ass. And my question is, why were you slipping around the fucking lion? For those people who want to jump up and say, oh, they're just like that, like they do with black people. Black people are just like that. They're just innately violent. I'm like, okay, let's go with that. Then why were you allowing yourself to be slipping around the motherfucking lion? That's what lions do. Even that's what you're saying, right? But I don't believe in that. I believe when you take somebody out of their element and put them in a fucked up situation, you're going to get fucked up results. And if you go in there on some la-di-da-di-da shit, you might catch yourself slipping and get fucked up, or the lion might catch you slipping. And that's what happens when you have this, the crime and the poverty spills out of the black community or the Hispanic community and spills on the white people. I'm like, you have a system that puts you at the top and everybody else is just supposed to accept their lot in life and be poor and just be happy being poor. Meanwhile, black people got to sit around, or Hispanic people got to sit around and watch white people drive by in their 650 BMW. That's not to say everybody has a 650 BMW, but I think that the disparity between the groups is pretty fucking obvious. Right? And for white people to sit there and deny that this is generational and that what happened in the past has no bearing on today is about as intellectually dishonest as you can get. But, the Republicans, they try to do that all the time, right? So, anyway, let me go into my next story, right? Let me go into my next story. Because the moral of all that is the laws were created to keep guns out of the hands of black people. Moving on to my next story. Okay. I hear all this talk about how easy it is to get guns. How easy it is to get guns, just period. First, there was the gun show loophole, which was total bullshit. I'm like, have you ever been to the gun show? I've been to the Oaks in Pennsylvania. I've been to Oaks. And in Oaks, shit, man. You can't walk out of there with a gun. Just like, hey, I'm just gonna walk out with a gun. Doesn't happen like that. And then here's what gets me, right? And then I saw this during the gun scare of 2013. I was in a gun store in New Jersey, and I was just browsing, looking around. And all they had was a whole bunch of expensive ass 1911s. I'm like, right? And I'm looking around, looking at ammo. That's when you couldn't find 9mm, 22, forget about it, right? And I'm looking around, and this white couple came in, and they had basically a home invasion. Now, I had a home invasion And, you know, that made me have this mindset of preparedness. Because there's nothing worse than getting woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning to shattering glass, you know, and you know, all you got is your underwear. You know what I mean? I mean, shit, when I grabbed the gun, you know, to respond to the threat, you know, I dropped the gun, you know, I mean, that's how dark it was in the rooms. Now I'm a lumophile. I got the, you know, the Walmart 150 lumen, $8, you know, flashlight. Now, I mean, I put that in your eyes in the dead of night. You ain't seeing shit. You know what I mean? You know, who the fuck are you? Get on the ground. You know, all that shit. Don't move, right? But I'm saying now I'm more prepared. You know, I got a bug out bag and things like this. It's just shit that I never thought about before. You know, and the thing is like, you know, talk about not thinking about stuff. There were people, or this couple, right? And this wasn't the first time. This wasn't the first time, because later I ended up talking to other gun store owners in Jersey, and I heard the same thing. People were coming there like, yeah, you know, I like, yeah, I want this gun right here. I want this gun. Right? They just walk in the store. Do you have a firearms ID card? No. I mean, the guy was in there with his wife. His wife was with him. You know, because basically they had a real crazy neighbor, and he was scared that the neighbor came to the house and he was cursing at the wife at the front door, and he's at work, and he's like, yo, this dude's out of his mind. I don't know what the fuck he's going to do. And I'm at work and she's home, and, you know, I'm worried for the safety of my wife. So he wanted to get her a gun. So they came there and they were, you know, looking at guns, and they were talking about revolvers and everything, which I think is a bad choice for her first gun. I don't think women are that stupid. You know what I mean? But guy, you know, what about she can't rack the slide and I'm like, please. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you know, I ended up overhearing the conversation, and I was basically telling them, well, if you're going to get some, I suggest getting something with a rail, because of my situation, waking up in the middle of the night, blah, 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 you know. So you want to be able to identify your target. You don't want to be like this guy down in Texas, I think it was, where he ended up shooting his own son because his son decided to run around the backyard holding a knife with a hockey mask on. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just a terrible story. But I'm saying you want to be able to identify your target, or be able to see where the fuck you're going. And the best place for a light to be is on the rail of a gun, right? So that's why, personally, I don't like 1911s without Picatinny rails. If I do get into 1911, need to have a rail so I can mount a light on it, especially for a home defensive pistol. So let me not get into all my nothing fancy philosophical bullshit. But I'm just saying, they were completely flabbergasted at what they had to do to get a firearm. You know, they had to, first off, they didn't have the firearms ID card. They didn't have the fingerprinting, right? They didn't have any of the things that they would need. They didn't have the references, right? They didn't even have it prepared. They didn't even know that they had to go to the police station to get the paperwork and then fill it all out and then come back, get the references, right? Have the police station call their employer, right, to verify employment, have them send the notes to each of the references, then have the references send it back, which is honestly the most time-consuming part, because you think like, hey man, I'm getting a new gun, yeah, could you just, you know, what's your address? Oh yeah, blah blah blah, send it to my house, okay. And you never hear back from them motherfuckers ever again. Like it's like, dude, did you send it? Oh yeah, oh my bad, dude, yeah, I'm gonna send that as soon as I get a chance. It's like, oh Jesus Christ, man. You know what I mean? See, that a lot of times is what takes up most of the time. It's not even if you have a dickhead police department in New Jersey, because sometimes you can have that, and you have that being shot down with the case in North Jersey with the Jeremy Hernandez, right? Because they had all this extra shit that the dude had to fill out in order to get the permit, and he just didn't fill it out. And at least New Jersey smacked that down and said, look, you can't make it that ridiculous. I mean, you already can't carry. You already can't carry, you know, even transport hollow tips beyond the range and back. Even if you can carry, you can't carry hollow points. They still got this hollow point cop killer mentality. I'm like, actually, it's the opposite. Full metal jackets will go through the person that you're trying to shoot and maybe go through a wall and hit somebody that you don't want to shoot. Hollow points stop in people. The force goes in it, but oh no, they're cop killers. Even though a hollow point is less likely to go through a vest than a full metal jacket, even if a full metal jacket could go through a vest. A hollow point most certainly ain't going to do it. It mushrooms. The whole point is for it to not over-penetrate. But, you know, again, you know, a bunch of people who don't know anything about firearms, ballistics, or guns making the laws up, right? And like I was going to say earlier, you know, it was black people that voted for a lot of these things. I mean, obviously, white liberals voted for it as well, but I'm saying black people in fear of the gang, they got fear-mongered into it. You know what I mean? You know, oh, well, we're not fighting against white supremacy anymore. So, you know, yeah, get rid of the guns so that we don't have to deal with these gangs in our communities. Well, the only way you're going to get rid of the gangs in your communities is if some economic opportunities are presented so that people have a job and livelihood and they don't get caught up in that type of life, because when they graduate high school, they actually have a means to support themselves. Okay? So, you know, and that's just, again, a generational thing. If the parents ain't making money and the parents is fucked up and the parents are existing in a state of prolonged exposure to poverty, then they're going to have an in poverty mentality. They're going to go out there and do things like have kids out of wedlock and everything else because they're not planning for the future. That people without resources do not think the same as people with do have resources. And they're going to adjust and they're going to create this justification in their head for how they're going to live and how they're going to operate and what they do and don't need to do. They're going to do all that. That's what they're going to do. Okay? So, you know, and it's hard to explain that shit to people because it's hard for me to understand it when I first originally tried to understand why poor people do the things that poor people do. And a white woman, she actually wrote an article. She said I think the article is called Why Poor People Make Poor Decisions. I believe that's what the article, and it's an excellent piece. It's an excellent piece. And it really discusses the hopelessness, you know, and how a lot of the stuff that they do is a coping mechanism in order to basically enjoy and live life without money and resources. It's like, think about it. Like, for people who have money and resources, how the fuck do you do that? You know what I mean? How do you convince yourself that not having money is great? Easy. You start cutting things out of your life. Shit, I don't need a car. I don't need this. I don't need that. And the same people who think that are the same people. And that's what the powers that be are trying to get black people to do, is accept their lot in life. But the thing is that the children grow up in an environment where they got to sit there and they got to watch other kids enjoy and have stuff because they have supportive parents and they don't have that shit. So here you got a young 12-year-old black kid that's frustrated as hell because he don't have shit. He ain't never had a BMX bike. He ain't never had a gifts underneath the Christmas tree. He ain't never had shit. And then, you know, here comes the drug dealer like, hey, little nigga, you want to make $300? I can get you that BMX bike. You know, all you got to do is when the cops come, scream YOLO, right? So he gets into the drug game like that. Next thing you know, he can buy shit he never had before. You know, white people went around talking about nigger rich and why the niggas buy rims and shit, because they never had nothing. They didn't get the Christmas tree with all the shit underneath it. You know what I'm saying? People who are that deprived of that shit, they're going to have a desire for material well-being because we live in a society that defines success by what? Material well-being. You know, I mean, shit, if they can't have the White House with the picket fence and the American dream, damn, nigga, can I at least get some motherfucking rims? Yes, go ahead, brother, get you some rims. Get you that nice watch that you couldn't have and shit. You know, and get you all that, because you remember being poor. You know, or as Beanie Siegel said in one of his rap songs, you know, I remember eating sleep for dinner. You know, but white people, they don't know nothing about that. Not all white people, but a good swath of white people, definitely not proportionately to the number of black people who experienced that growing up. You know, so where was I going? Going back to what I was saying a few seconds ago. So it was just, it blew my mind. Or actually, it didn't blow my mind. I was actually like, I actually felt kind of some type of way about it. No, I didn't even feel, that's not the right term. It's not about feeling some type of way about it. I was actually glad that, like, it hit them. Like, oh my God, we can't just get a gun? What do you mean? I got to go through all these hoops of fire? I'm like, yeah, that's what you got to do in New Jersey. So see, I already did it. So I was like, hey, you know, I'm good. You know, that's your problem. You know, that's how I was looking at it in terms of them. But I'm like, good. I'm glad your experience sucked here today at the New Jersey gun shop. I'm glad that you feel vulnerable as fuck because you know Ray Ray and Pookie can go get a gun in Camden out the back of a car, but yet you're not going to see, you're not even going to smell the oil on the gun. Shit's not even going to drip through your fingers until about 6 months from now, when you actually are able to pick up your gun from the gun store. Okay? And I'm saying, and that's me just being liberal with it, you know, hoping that you don't have a dickhead police department. Because if you got a dickhead police department, you may be waiting even longer than that in New Jersey. You might even be waiting longer than that. So I'm like, I'm so glad, and I hope you run around and you tell other white people, you know that think that, you know, oh, it's not, because let's face it, black people aren't the majority in New Jersey. Yes, the majority of the Democratic Party and everything else, and I do think that their votes need to change in order to change these bullshit ass gun laws that don't prevent any of the crime that they think that black people are preventing in their black communities. It ain't preventing any of that crime. Again, you know, this, as I stated before, the white liberals that really piss me off are the ones that just blatantly say, you know, fuck the lives of black people, you know, by basically, we're not going to attack the gun issue because the lives of the black people dying in Camden were not important. It was the lives of those little precious white children in Newtown that's not even in our fucking state. You know, oh, we got to save the children. And the majority of homicide deaths by gun are black males between the ages of 19 and 25. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, I don't believe that solves the problem because it's an economic problem. But what I'm saying is, what actually made them want to stand up and actually create more gun laws wasn't the crime in the urban environments, which to me is just misguided. You know, that belief that, oh, you ban the guns and you get rid of the crime. That's just misguided. But I'm saying I would have given them some kudos had that been their belief. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to their belief being, oh, let's save the white children from Newtown. Oh, that's going to make us get off our asses to create more gun laws. You see what I'm saying? It's the motive behind the shit. So I'm like, oh, wow, so Black Lives wasn't good enough? Fuck you. And again, that's why I say y'all white people is some motherfuckers. But that's a whole different topic, right? But I really want, you know, those white people. I want them to go back and tell them how horrible their experience was. I want everybody. And see, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people, they don't care unless they're in it. See, the reason why gun owners and the NRA is so strong is because they actually have a fear of loss. They actually have the fear of losing something because they have guns. They own guns. It's like, damn, they gonna take my shit away? But people who don't have shit, they're like, oh, it doesn't matter, da-da-da-da. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter until the day that you decide that you need a firearm and you go to the gun store and you can't get one. And not only that, the laws are so restrictive that it'll take forever for you to get one. Because even after they go through all the bullshit that they got to go through to get that FID card, to get fingerprinted, to get their references and all that shit, all that waiting, okay? Not only do they got to go through the background check with their local municipality, they got to go through the background check from their state police, right? Then they got to go through the third background check, which is the only background check that matters in 90% of the rest of the fucking country. Which is the next background check. This is the only background check that matters. In other states, if I was a Pennsylvania resident, I'd go in there and buy guns like sneakers. You know, as long as I'm not a felon, as long as I don't have a, criminal record, I go in there and say, I need a gun today. I might have to wait 7 days or whatever. I don't know what the rules are. Fuck it. I'll wait a week. I don't care. You know, if they think, passions of crime happen and, oh, I need a gun right now so I can go back and kill my wife. Right? Yeah, okay, I get that. Wait 7 days. I'm cool with that. But I mean, they can carry in Pennsylvania and they can walk into a gun store and make a purchase. But in New Jersey, oh no. Oh no. They make the process so horrible that after you buy your first gun, you'll never want to go through that process again. And they believe that somehow equates to less guns on the street in Camden and Patterson and Jersey City, which is bullshit. Bullshit. Because most of the guns that are being used in violent crimes aren't even coming from the state of New Jersey. They're coming from outside the state, from more liberal states, or excuse me, gun liberal states. That's where these guns are coming from. So you ain't stopping no amount of crime. If you really want to stop the crime, then you got to stop the motive behind the crimes, which is poverty and economic disenfranchisement. That's what the motivation of the crimes are. But oh, I know that's the hardest thing for motherfuckers to address, because they don't want to address that shit. That would require work on the part of white society. You know, they don't want to address that. Oh no, they got all the power, you know, but the black people, they need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps that they don't have, and we made sure that they didn't have them. We got to make sure, yeah. You know, and then you got the liberals. Yes, we got to keep those black people dependent on welfare forever, because we you know, that's how you control black people. You keep them dependent, right? So it's like either side. It's like you know, I don't particularly want to vote for either fucking party. Republicans are a bunch of racist ass assholes that have been using Southern strategy forever, and the hold on, I can't believe that shit. Whatever. Anyway, you know, Southern strategy, and then you got the liberals, you know, that use, I don't even know what you want to call it. Call it urban strategy. You know, call it that. Vote for us and we'll give you more free shit. You know, vote for us and we'll get the guns off the street, because, you know, that's where the crime is, because of the guns, because all guns have an evil, dark spirit within them. And anytime a young man picks up a gun, you know, the evil spirit transfers into his soul, into his black male soul, and makes him a criminal. I'm like, really? Really? You know, I mean, that's like what they promote out here. You know, see, so I don't like either party. Either party can kiss my black ass. You know, but, you know, like I said, the two stories, you know, number one, guns were designed to keep guns out of the hand, or guns were, the gun laws were put in place, especially in New Jersey, especially in the East Coast, and any urban center, to keep guns out of the hands of black people. Initially, at first, it was because they didn't want black people shooting back at the police or shooting back at white people that were trying to oppress them. And then second, it was the whole crack epidemic, epidemic, right? That was the second one. And then the last lesson is, you know, the white people that, you know, didn't realize how hard it was. You know, all the people that sit there and think getting a gun legally is so easy have never gone through the process of trying to get a gun, especially in the state of New Jersey. Especially in the state of New Jersey. And a lot of the people that thought those guns, those laws are so, well, we're trying to keep the streets safe, and it shouldn't, you know, this is just a minor inconvenience to you. Those people either not only never got a gun, but have no intentions of getting a gun. They have no intentions of getting a gun. Why should you have more than one gun? You know, those type of people. I'm like, well, what if I want a gun for each caliber? So if I want a 9, a 40, and a 45, let's just say those are the most popular calibers, that's 3 guns right there. Just to have one for each caliber. Then if I want to have a planking gun, a 22, that's my 4th caliber. What else? What am I missing? Now, rifles don't count, shotguns don't count, because you don't have to go through that permit process to get the permit to purchase for a handgun, as you know, or you know, for a rifle or a shotgun, as you do with the handgun. All right, so that's different. But what's the other thing? I'm trying to think what the other thing is. The other thing is, what's the other thing? I'm going blank. And I'm losing my train of thought. But, I mean, I guess, fuck it, I can end the video here. You know, but I want those people, I wish anybody who wants to be anti-gun in New Jersey and wants to talk about, you know, how, you know, easy it is to get a gun, and, you know, I'm like, go through the process. You know what I mean? And then not only that, But I want a lot of these people that think that, oh, I don't think anybody should have guns and everything. I want you to live in a fucked up area. Okay? Or an area that's backed up against a fucked up area. To where crime occasionally does happen and spills, into you, even if you live in, a quasi-burb or something like that. Because there's a lot of quasi-burbs, especially in North Jersey. Like quasi-burb would be like, around the Trenton area of New Jersey. That's like quasi-suburbs. It's not as plush as some other parts of New Jersey, but I'm saying, to where, the white people are so wealthy and so far away from those terrible minorities and all of their poverty, that the idea of violence happening in the area is just zero. They don't even, the most of the shit that they're dealing with is the police is like some case of domestic violence or some minor teenager vandalism. I don't even know what the fucking cops do out there, but I know a lot of them make over $100K. It's insane. But yet the cops on the beat, the cops out here that are in, the real hoods and getting shot at, they don't make shit. They don't make shit. Right? Don't even get me started on what state troopers make in Jersey. Let me not let me keep my mouth shut. They might find out who I am, and next thing you know, I'm getting fucked with by the state troopers. So let me not talk about them. But anyway, so that's my video. New Jersey gun laws. That's my handle, but. That's my video. That's all I got to say. I got all of that off my chest. I feel much better now. So, I'm out. You all have a good day or good night.